Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, you are at the right webinar, hopefully. I know it's full of webinar everywhere. So it's the Scientometrics webinar. And we welcome you with a bit of music. Make sure you are muted. I see friend faces a bit everywhere, but also new participants. And we are not yet full. We have more than 50. You can switch off the camera, Sophia, if you want. But it's nice to see you. So, it's lunchtime, so if anyone wants to have also the lunch break at the same time, be my guest. So we had around 50 participants, or at least registration. So that's why we are waiting a bit. We are halfway through. And we will kick off. But I can already share with you a small poll. Just to give you, just to know a bit more about your mood. And here it is. But the thingamabob that does the job is bibbidi-bobbidi-boo. Don't be shy, guys. No one has voted yet. Do you see the poll?
It takes some time to read. It's
Anonymous?
It is anonymous. So. 0 votes, huh?
François actually see the polls with the answer from our participants. So we have for the moment 14 answers.
Good for you. You see it. Thank you, Valentin, because I don't see. I see 0 out of 21. Okay, so can you read maybe the results?
Yes. So
I will end the polls, and I can share the results. Do you see the results?
Yep.
Good for you guys. I see nothing. So please go ahead, Valentin.
Yes, so the question is, what is your mood today? So we have the first sentence, I can't wait to hear about the Kardashian index. We are 30%.
Can you please mute if you are not talking? Thank you.
We are 30% that can't wait to hear about the Kardashian index. 73% that looking forward to be entertained. And 13% that don't care about Scientometrics, just want to hear about roller derby.
Okay, so I can help you for the Kardashian index. It is actually a way to measure the scientist's popularity on Twitter with the number of followers versus the number of publications he or she has done. So it's called the CADE index, and we'll find you some of those references for this article later on at the end of the lunch talk. And for the roller derby, you will have to ask our guest speaker, Georgina. I don't see you. Hello, Georgina. So, Georgina, you are MVP 2019 roller derby, but that will be not the topic today. It can be another webinar. But please, you are our guest speaker, and a few words of introduction from your side before we begin.
Yes, thank you. So really, thank you so much, Francois, for reaching out to me to speak, help today, and we can have a discussion all together. I am a toxicologist in training. I did a master's in toxicology. Then I spent a year in the European Commission, where I see some friendly faces that I met there many, many years ago, like 10 years ago now. And then I proceeded to go to the US and do my PhD there in public health, and focused again in toxicology under Thomas Hartum's leadership. It was, it's a great experience, and I have to say that toxicology community is one of the best now that I'm also working in other research communities. It's amazing how we still we're still communicating. I'm still in touch with many of my prior colleagues, and this is something that you can really make the most of. That is such a tight group in toxicology. So after my PhD, I landed on an offer to go into publishing, and that's where I am now. So I currently manage 2 journals at Frontiers in Genetics and Frontiers in Bioinformatics, working as a journal manager. And that's why Francois decided to invite me, out of all people. I am not an expert myself in Scientometrics, but I hope to just guide a discussion and answer any questions that may come up. Also, it's a learning opportunity for me to know from the scientist side what you think about different scientometric measures, publishing in general. And anything I say here are, of course, my views and not those of Frontiers.
Thank you for this nice disclaimer at the end, Georgina. So I have a question for you, all my favorite participants, and I will share my screen because I have a charade before we really get in. And here it is. I'll share the screen. And voila. Do you see my screen? Yes.
Yeah.
So, dear participant, you can write the answer in the chat box, but here it is. I'm reading it also. My father comes from America. His name is Eugene Garfield. So you have to find out what it is, or who it is. I'm 43 years old. Everybody looks at me, count on me. Librarians were the first to check on me. I decide what is top and what is down. My measure reflects the yearly average number of citations to recent articles published in that journal. If you have the answer, just put it in the chat. Valentin, are the people writing in the chat, or people have absolutely no clue what I'm talking about? Valentin, do you see any chat? I start to see some chat. Not enough clues. I'm sorry.
The first reply.
Now I have it. Impact factor, impact factor, impact factor. Oh, you're all good. I am a journal impact factor. Bravo. And with this, we can kick in. What do you think about, can you tell me more about impact factor, maybe, Georgina? The H index, for example, or whatsoever?
Well, yeah, starting with journal impact factors, what you've mentioned already in the previous slide is it's a scientometric index. It was developed by Eugene Garfield, and it is presented in the journal citation report. So this is where you can find all journal impact factors. It is the total number of citations that is given in a specific year, divided by the number of citable items that that journal received in the previous 2 years. So journal impact factors, why were they developed? They were actually developed to inform librarians as to which journals they should be subscribing to. However, that's changed, right? Now we don't necessarily subscribe to journals, not all journals, because a lot of journals are open access. We rely on our libraries to subscribe to traditional publishers. However, everything being open access, we can choose who we would like to follow, what we would like to read. So we don't need to rely so much on this journal impact factor. No selection is needed, let's say. And then the problem is that journal impact factors are based on a short citation window. So journal impact factors are based on a 2-year frame. And it's been calculated that the average publication actually needs about 8 years to capture 50% of its citations, and then even up to 12 years to capture, let's say, the majority of citations it's going to receive. It's true that for any given article, the citations do peak after 2 years. So at 2 years is normally the peak number of citations that it would be receiving in a given year.
But why do we do, you said it was used by the librarian, but more and more, it seems that it's used to measure what good science is. Maybe...
Well, this has remained, of course. It has remained, and a lot of traditional publishers have built a larger impact factor, journal impact factor. And let's say that they have ways to manipulate this, because that's the other issue or concern with journal impact factors, is that they can be manipulated. They can be skewed by very few papers. So very highly cited papers can skew the impact factor, but also publishing a larger number of review articles, for example, can also manipulate this impact factor. Why is it still, let's say, the metric used to use as a value for the journal? It's kind of ingrained in society, I would say. No, it's already something that's been taught to younger generations, that if you publish in higher impact factor journals, this is what's going to help you in advancing your career. So yeah, this can go into other concerns regarding how we determine who should receive a grant or who should receive a promotion based on which journals they have published in. And I think later we'll talk about other metrics which focus more on the article level, not on the journal level.
So let me go back just to this idea of good science. I would like to ask the participant via a poll what they think good science could be. And we can also, you please comment after on this. So here it is. So I can't see the voting percentage again. Valentin, do you see it?
Yes, I see it. So the question is, what would be the most important metric to measure success in science? There is multiple choice. The size of the labs, the size of the grants, the number of publication, the number of invitation as invited speakers, the number of invitation to submit a manuscript, the name of the journal you publish, the name of the university you work with and therefore its ranking, the number of invitation to review other people's work, and the number of citation in publication.
Okay, everyone voted?
So for the moment, we have 14% that voted. 12%.
How many percent?
60%.
Okay, then we can close. It's already a minute. So
someone commented, Katia commented most of it actually.
Yes, Katia, I think there is not just one good answer. Here are the results that I share for you guys that I can't see. Pity me.
Okay, so the trend for the most reply is number of citation in publication with 75%. Just behind 10 vote 20 number of publication. The number of invitation as invited speakers 40%. With number of invitation to review other people's work, the same result, 40%, and also the size of the grant.
Do you want to comment on this, Georgina?
Maybe I would just say that I find it a bit surprising that as scientists you chose the second option, second most voted is number of publications, because I think that dips into another conversation, ongoing conversation about quality versus quantity, right? So
yeah,
maybe some of you who voted for this for a number of publications, you can comment, but this could be just from your own experience, I guess that you ensure that you think that the number of publications you have is actually what will be able to lead you to the next position or another offer.
But you have some country like in India, I think they also reward your number of publication, and so there you have also your skewed or biased metrics in one direction, which is we need to publish. We have this publish or perish credo also that people just stick to the mind. You need to publish, you need to be visible. That's maybe what the people remember.
Yeah. Massimo said large groups equals higher number of publications. Yes, so having a larger group. However, this is an early career scientist is very difficult because you don't have your established group yet. So publishing at high volumes becomes very, very challenging. Yeah, and does lead you to the publish or perish question.
Could you maybe suggest other metrics? We mentioned the impact factor, okay, also the reputation of the journal, basically. But I mentioned the K index with the Kardashian, which is more a joke as a start, but then is being used. The H index, can you tell me maybe more about the H index?
Yeah. So I'll just comment on a couple of points that are coming in. The number of citations of reviews is somehow always high. This is correct. Review articles do receive more citations in general. Is this a good measure of science success? Good question, Sophia, because writing a review, is this really measuring your scientific output or your scientific, how much impact you're having on science? But they are cited more often, exactly. And then Sophia later said, the policy that you need to publish a lot leads sometime to hurry in publishing or having a publication-driven science. Exactly, yes, this is part of the issue, leading to hurried publications and focusing too much on quantity and not as much on quality. Being so competitive with all the different outlets as well. I mean, everyone can find somewhere to publish nowadays, and can also post their articles on bioarchives or some other online repository. So other metrics.
We'll come back to bioarchive.
We'll come back. Other metrics. So, and I think one of the things that Francois and I discussed, for me, I see these as very important tools to include in your grant applications or when you're applying for a promotion. Why? Because it really opens discussion for people who are considering you to look into these, into the details of these numbers as to why these may be better metrics of your scientific output. So H index has also its positive side and negative side. This is a list, when you list all the publications that you have, you rank them in descending order by the number of citations they've received. And then the H index is equal to the number of papers in that list that have at least, so the number of citations is at least that number of publications you have. So if you have 20 publications, each with 20 citations, your H index would be 20 citations or more. However, what's the issue here? If someone has 20 publications, but each publication has 100 citations, they also will still have only an H index of 20. So it could be lower for certain people, but this is a better metric at an individual level on the citations of their articles. We also have the I-10. So this is the number of publications that have at least 10 citations. We also spoke about the Shanghai list, so rankings of top universities. This is also always, I think, crucial to mention if your university is, in a list of top ranked universities or your department. Which other ones did I mention?
Because Shanghai, the Shanghai University ranking is not ranking a European ranking, so it's made by can you explain a bit more this Shanghai?
Top universities worldwide, so it's for the whole world.
And it's supposed to attract Nobel Prize winners. I mean, the young students actually, where I think they take in consideration also Nobel Prize winners, the amount of people that are studying there. But Europe had its own way also to look at it because it's a different ecosystem, and they call it multi-rank.
Multi-rank EU, yeah. And this is also global top universities. I think it has a focused list on EU universities, but there's also a global ranking list. So other metrics to include are, so for each article that you're listing in an application, I would consider writing the number of times that article has been cited, but you could also include views and downloads. If it's a very recent article, the citations are not necessarily going to be coming in until the following year, perhaps. So really showing how this article is gaining traction or is being viewed, is being downloaded. It's real time. It really shows on how this article is being disseminated, how its readership, and the potential impact of that work.
So if we focus also on the young researchers, I would like you to discuss also the views and downloads are really useful because you don't need to wait to be referenced or quoted by others. So your work is being valued, but you have maybe altmetrics and plumics that could also be interesting to be described here.
Exactly. So altmetrics is meant to be used as a complementary to other citation-based metrics, so not on its own. And it will show, once you go into the altmetrics website for a given article, show how many times those articles or that data is discussed or used around the world. So has it been showcased in different news outlets? How many Twitter shares, reshares has it received? But also whether the data itself is being used in another specific use that could be at a pharmaceutical company, or a medical doctor could be using this information. And that is also an area of impact of research, which is not quantified as much.
Okay.
And again, this is real time. PlumX is a paid service, if I'm not mistaken. It offers 5 different metric categories for research output. And it's not only for research articles, so that the benefit here is that it's also for data sets or different outputs, which are not necessarily original research articles.
Okay. But I see that you can start to build also a CV or publication list, not only using the H index, which you say is biased, but it seems that I think none of these metrics is ideal, but it's rather providing multiple metrics like H index, maybe the views and the downloads for the young researchers, or besides citations or the citation per article, also the life of the article in the social network, in the communication, in the dissemination to the public, because somehow it's what you're saying. It reaches out beyond the community you're targeting. And I think it's interesting also now that as scientists, we do have a role in disseminating and more actively the information and the knowledge we create most of the time using taxpayer money into also the public sphere.
I think this year is the best example of how open access, open science can really drive and has its positives and its negatives, of course, because we see the huge number of publications on COVID which are already being retracted. We see how, if this weren't open, how much slower advances would have been if there weren't open science, not only in terms of development of vaccines, let's say, but something more simple in educating the population on the science behind the different measures that are being taken.
Yeah.
If this is not open, then there's less opportunities to
I mean, you can't avoid conspiracies theory, but the more transparent you are, the better it is. I agree with that. All right, I see, Georgia, you have a comment and you would like to see the website for the two mentioned tools. I think you were referring to ALTERTOX and Plumix. Either Valentin or I will respond to you, or we can...
I included all of the links. I sent those to you, Francois. So yes, you will have links to almost everything I mentioned here today.
Yes, indeed, Georgina. We will have a list of all the tools we are referring today or mentioning today. I see you have
Johannes has a great question. I think this is a really great discussion point. So speaking about retractions, is there any measure taking retracted articles under consideration for the evaluation of an individual? Now, if an article is retracted, this information is available on Retraction Watch, and we also provide the link for this. I think I was going to discuss it later, but we can discuss it now. Mm-hmm. And this could be either falsification of data or retraction because the scientists themselves have realized that there was some mistake in the data and analysis or in the conclusions. But it could also be some kind of conflict of interest, or it could be an ethical concern regarding whatever the conclusions of the manuscripts or the way the experiment was performed. So my thoughts here is that it's very difficult to group all retractions, because some retractions should be done and should be initiated by the scientists themselves if they notice that there has been an error or for some reason the result they achieved was incorrect. And this shouldn't be penalized in a way, because we do want science to be open, we want science to be transparent, but we also want scientists themselves to be able to freely say when they think they did something wrong, and that this should be retracted. However, of course, there are many cases where the scientists themselves are not saying they did something wrong. It's being identified post-publication by someone else or by the journal themselves.
Maybe,
so
go ahead.
No, I just think that, if you're going to evaluate an individual, then definitely always checking whether they are in Retraction Watch and why, because Retraction Watch describes clearly the reasons why the article was retracted. Or if you find the manuscript, I mean, not all will be in Retraction Watch, but if you find their manuscript was retracted, what was the reason behind this retraction?
Maybe intermediate step before the retraction, and Retraction Watch, you have also an add-on with PubPeer,